here's the finished bike. But let's take a recap and see how we got here. After that little recap, let's go over what we actually did to this bike. Well, let's go through some of the modifications that we did here. Some of the most visual cues from the original bike is obviously the fenders. Went to plastic fenders front and rear, getting rid of the heavy old steel fenders front and rear. F9 had steel fenders. The F5, like behind me, had aluminum fenders, but obviously if you're going to go racing or build something that's going to go racing, you can eliminate a lot more weight with the plastic fenders. Same thing, adding number plates if we're going racing here. Got rid of the headlight, tachometer, speedometer, all that weight way up high here. Built a bracket off of the little tabs for the gauges. Put a front number plate on. Side number plate, same thing. Probably about the only place to put it here. Just got some welded some tabs to the frame and put some bolts to mount that there. Also, big cue, which you've seen if you've been watching the other series, is this expansion chamber. Cleaned it up, painted up with some high temp paint. Got a rare sticker and put that on it because it's a Bassani, so we got factory correct there. This eliminated a lot of weight that's held up high. Big long kind of pipe and expansion chamber here, so this one's a lot quieter than some other designs that were made for this bike. And I'm told it does broaden out the power, especially up high with this extra length there. Added the red tip just kind of to set it off. I don't know if that's factory. I've heard it might be. But anyway, I wanted it that way, so that's why that is. That's my personal touch. Going back to the fenders here, I thought every 70s bike, needs the fender flappers here, mud flaps. These are period pieces, front and rear, because these fenders didn't really cover a whole lot. So this is, you see in the old videos and things, these things flapping in the wind. I don't know, that's just kind of an aesthetic thing. Seat, we rebuilt the foam, and you've seen that in the other series. New seat cover and everything. Bars, aluminum bars, new grips. We took a little liberty by putting aluminum bars on here just for kind of ease. The factory steel chrome ones are kind of flimsy, and they're not a very good bend for motocross or racing. You don't got as much leverage, and they're kind of tucked in tight to you, so this opens up the cockpit a lot more, gives you a lot more leverage for when you're needing to counter steer really hard. Well, here we are on the other side of the bike here, and this is pretty much the business end for a rotary valve engine because the carburetor's on this side. We'll start down here with the carburetor. You'll notice this screen here, and actually these parts here come stock on the F81M, and to add them to this, it's pretty simple. You just cut out a hole in the carburetor cover, drill some holes, put these bolts in. There's a gasket, this screen, and then there's some filter media behind it. Not from the factory. I actually put in a little foam piece behind there, because I thought this screen and the little bit of media they had impregnated in it just didn't seem good enough for me, especially where I will ride this bike a little bit. I don't want to be sucking a lot of dirt and sand in there. Downfall of doing this, obviously, is if you ride in a lot of creek crossings and things, you know, you obviously can't submerge the engine up there. You're going to just get water in there, whereas factory cover, you know, you can basically go this deep in water because the air intake is up here just under the seat. And that's something you can see down here, this little hose. That's a drain for just in case the carburetor floods, or you do get some water in there. It can at least drain out there and it doesn't fill up in the carburetor cover there, or carburetor chamber there. The other thing, obviously, we didn't want to run that old vacuum petcock. Went to just a standard one like you'd find on any other bike. This actually happens to be off of like a Harley Sportster. The left side tank, because there's two of them on that, because it fits this 22 millimeter thread on here. So there's a little tip for you if you have a bighorn or anything with a 22 millimeter thread. This will thread right into it nice. It's a nice add-on. Nice little chrome piece. You know, some people might, for authenticity, would probably bead blast this, kind of take the shine off of it, but I don't care. I kept the oil tank actually because there's conflicting reports on, you know, removing it, because the oil pump does lubricate the this right side main bearing in here, and the oil pump cable is unhooked, so it's feeding it at idle. So it's feeding a little bit of oil mostly into there. I've blocked it off from going into the intake. We'll run premix in here. And actually, per the speed kit manual, that's actually how they recommended that for the F5, how to run it. So that's what I'm doing here. I guess I just want to know that that main bearing's getting lubricated, and I'll adjust my jetting and premix accordingly for that tiniest little bit of oil that does get sucked into the crankcase. Obviously, we put a number plate on this side too. Same deal. Put some tabs, tap some holes into like the rear subframe here with some spacers, spaced it out, and you know, it's pretty well out of the way here. You know, your leg doesn't rub on it. However, you can see some marks from my boot from kickstarting it. And one thing about that kickstart, my fix didn't work, or it failed, or the kickstart lever was kind of cracked. I don't know. More on that later, but you'll notice the Kickstarter's not here, so I can't start the bike right now. I had it running, obviously, and rode it around a little bit, because you can see there's some dirt and such on the tires. So more on that later. Watch that for another video, because I have a fix for that, just not at the time I filmed this. You also notice I got the, these are period correct aluminum foot pegs that fit right into the factory brackets. You know, neat period piece. I didn't really clean them up too much or try to make them look pretty, because, you know, their foot pegs are going to get damaged up. It gives a little bit of character to the bike. You'll notice these orange things, these orange shocks on the back here. These are, you can check my website for more information on these. Rebuilt these, painted them all up into as close to the factory color of these. These are Mulholland shocks. I rebuilt them. They're rebuildable. They're actually tunable, and I just put them back whatever they were. And I have some other parts like a change in tuning, but once I get to riding it, I'll see if I want to mess with them or see how well they work. Same with the springs. They're the factory springs that were on it. When I sit on it and adjust this and check the sag, they seem to be right, just about right for my weight. So I might not have to get new springs, but that's a pretty easy fix or upgrade. Aftermarket springs companies have them. Well, I mean, that's pretty much the bike right there. I mean, you saw in all the other videos, and if you haven't watched those, some of the modifications we did, porting the cylinder a little bit, port matching and gasket matching and everything. The only thing that's bone stock is the ignition and flywheel, the heavy flywheel. That might be something I might tackle in the future a little bit, is maybe lightening up that flywheel or putting a different ignition system on, because I hear there is other ones you can use. But that's the other thing about this bike. It's not truly finished because there's still a lot of other things I want to try, like the forks. I rebuild them as far as seals, and they weren't really that worn, and bushings, but I'm going to modify them, probably put in some emulators from Race Tech in there. I've heard those things are pretty good. Same with other things with the cylinder. I might do that. And of course I got another frame for this bike, and I might do some frame modifications as far as changing the steering head angle, lengthening it just a little bit. On my website you can find a page that talks a little bit about some of the upgrades that you can do to this bike, and a lot of these little performance tips that you've seen in this series can be applied to a lot of different vintage bikes and even modern bikes. The principles are the same. I just chose to show it on this bike here. So that's not all you're going to see of this bike. In the future I will make some videos. We'll definitely get a ride video in here, but like I said, I got to fix my Kickstarter and kind of beef it up, maybe make it a little bit better or put a different design on there. Like I said, I got a fix for the factory one, but I might look into modifying one for a different bike that'll make it work. Well, that's about it. That's everything. You know, if you stumble onto this video and you watch this one and you like what you see here, go back and watch the other videos and watch my other barn fresh restoration of factory correct F5 restoration. So until next time, like the Facebook page, check out the website, and thanks for watching.